Hello, I'm Armin. So how to start? A few years ago, I published a book, Startup Investment Innovation Ecosystem in Emerging Europe, covering entrepreneurial renaissance of entrepreneurship in Central Eastern Europe. So I will not speak today about crypto, about trading, about what will be price of Bitcoin in few weeks or few years. I want to speak about Bitcoin as innovation. So the innovation, there is this theory that in order to innovation to get adopted by society and fully integrated in society, it takes 30 years. So if you look today, like internet was invented or started 30 years ago, today we cannot imagine a world without the internet, and internet has fully integrated in our way how our society functions. So we are kind of halfway through with the Bitcoin, which started in 2008, starting this new era, industrial revolution called driven by computing information. So in order for us to understand Bitcoin, I would like us to go to small time traveling to 2008 and understand the circumstances and what were the events that actually made the Bitcoin to be a thing. So in Latvia, as you remember, in the period of pre-2008, life was pretty good. There were a lot of money flowing in, a lot of investment. There was big optimism into future. People purchasing power of local currency lat was big. With 100 lats, you could solve almost any problem. So, and people were driven with this kind of optimism, thinking it will be endless. But then, what happened was something that people call global financial crisis in Latvia, that we know as nothing special crisis. And it changed everything. It changed how economy functioned over the time, how we still feel the consequences, in fact, of the financial crisis of 2008. On October 31st, 2008, on some niche, small internet forum, there was a published information that Satoshi Nakamoto, anonymous person, wrote this white paper. In order to understand with whom I'm speaking, who of you actually read a Bitcoin white paper? Only a few people, incredible. It's only 9 pages. This paper kind of changed how we perceive value and money. People from financial industry never even took 5 minutes to read it. Incredible. So, in the first Bitcoin, what was minted in 2009, on 3rd January 2009, there was a hidden message pointing out to the newspaper title, which says, "Cancer on the brink of second bailout for the banks." And this kind of shows why Bitcoin was actually created. It was the answer to the answers of governments on the financial crisis. So this is how it looks like, that historic newspaper title where we see this cancer on the brink of the Second World War, second bailout for the bank. And as you can see from other titles, history keeps repeating, except eating out for £5, it's no longer a thing. So, whoever Satoshi Nakamoto is, he understood that very historic moment that US dollar and all other fiat money supply increased, dramatically increased. So if we look from today's perspective, this 2008 uptick of printing additional money just kept printing more and more and more money. So as the overall money total supply increased, the money became worthless. And it keeps this kind of inflation, it keeps everything gets more expensive, not because stuff is getting more expensive, but because money is valued less. And so Satoshi Nakamoto created this kind of system where there is a deflationary hyperbola, where there is over time, there is smaller and smaller amount of new Bitcoins actually issued, and this is some kind of new economic paradigm that is deflationary and kind of a way how to protect yourself against the inflation. In the early adopters of Bitcoin, when network was very small, they were mining, they were offering their computing power. You could mine with simple home PC. When you could get a lot of Bitcoins in the early beginnings, but the problem was that you could not really spend it, you could not really perceive where it can go. So first example of person actually spending Bitcoin is this Laszlo guy who spent 10,000 Bitcoin for pizza order. And he was so happy. He finally managed to monetize, to buy something of his Bitcoins and he was happy with his pizza. And this is a kind of historic moment of first official purchase with Bitcoin. There are also other examples, like there are esports tournaments where winner got a prize of $500 and losers got all 25 Bitcoins. But the real, how to say, use case was actually when WikiLeaks started using Bitcoin to avoid financial sanctions against them. I don't know if you guys know what is WikiLeaks and why is it important. For me personally at the time, and still, it's very important. I grew up in bomb shelter. I grew up in terrible, devastating war. And everything that is official explanation about that war is wrapped in many layers of misinterpretations and manipulations. And WikiLeaks is one of the very rare sources that actually exposes truth about my childhood and the war that I went through. And yet, this WikiLeaks got banned, and their bank account got cancelled, and they were forced to drive this kind of Bitcoin adoption to their use case, and they set an example for other open source projects, researchers, and projects around the world to start accepting the Bitcoin as donations, as a value storage, and it kept growing and growing. And for me personally, I started to understand Bitcoin more seriously, or impact of it, in Greece. Somewhere in 2013-14, I met this Syrian refugee. All his belongings were in Bitcoin. He sold everything that he could, and he was just going. He didn't know where he goes, he was just keep going. And everything that he would bring with himself was in his backpack, and all his belongings were in Bitcoin. At the same time, in Greece, terrible situation. Like bank stopped access of people to their own money. There was daily withdrawal limit of 60 euros. People were literally dying in ATM queues just to get hands on their own money. This increased incredible mistrust in European Central Bank, in banks in general, in future of euro as a currency. And in that historic moment, at the peak of this mistrust, Latvia did the Lat to euro swap. So Latvia abandoned its own national currency and swapped it to euros in 2014 at the peak of this crisis. So for 1 lat at the time, you could get 1.42 euros, or you could get 259,000 sats. So sats is actually a 10th millionth of a Bitcoin. So in order that we don't speak about 0.000, we just convert it in sats. So if you would take this 100 lats on the 1st of January 2014, and instead of euro, swapped it to Bitcoin, today we would have your belongings worth over 25,000 euros. So 100 lots in Bitcoin today is 25,000 euros. I will let you that sink. So over the time, there was other innovations. There was all this crypto noise, crypto other stuff. So people started, inspired by Bitcoin as innovation, they started launching their own networks. They started accepting Bitcoin as a prepayment, and they started this kind of all crypto thing. But as you can see from this graph, Bitcoin is still major market dominance in market cap and in everything. And most of this stuff that we call crypto ecosystem is not related to Bitcoin in any way. There are a few projects like Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, that are fork or their own versions of Bitcoin, but other stuff do not interact at any way with Bitcoin, so it's kind of stuff that is inspired by principles of Bitcoin, but technically it's not related. So in order to understand in all this noise what really matters, I read this book, Bitcoin Standard, where you put Bitcoin as a nominal value of how you value things. So, and you get yourself out of the debt crisis, debt trap, and you hold the Bitcoin over time in order to protect yourself from inflation, from all this stuff. A few weeks ago, I met this Palestinian author, Saifuddin, and he told me that he's writing a book that is called A Gold Standard. And during the research for his book, he realized one thing, that inflation was not even a word before First World War. It was almost never mentioned in any books, in any newspapers, and in only when government decided to take away gold standard and start this fiat money based on debt or whatever it's based. This is when inflation actually appeared. It is a word that was non-existent before. So, inspired by this book, I was looking for places here in Riga where I could spend my Bitcoins, where I could actually put it into work. And there was almost no places. But there was this wonderful bar in Alfreda Kalnina Jela called Devini Gradu Buffets. So it is this very nice retro Soviet kind of a bar where you could buy homemade beer and pilmeni for Bitcoins. And there was this confused tourist behind me. He was, while looking at this scene, I'm paying for my beer with Bitcoin. And he was like, oh my God, Bitcoin, I don't know, that's for me something for future. Who are you? Where are you from? I said, like, I'm from Yugoslavia, bro. From Yugoslavia? That's something from the past. What are you, some kind of time traveler from crypto Yugoslavia or something? So that was one of the first use cases here in Riga where I managed to spend Bitcoin, but also Air Baltic. Other than planes, Air Baltic was one of the first adopters of Bitcoin as a payment. Many times it saved me when my bank, usually Bosnian banks, when you try online purchase, they just block your transaction because online transaction is a suspicious transaction for them. So Bitcoin was the way for me how to buy. I could buy a ticket on Air Baltic from long time ago. And Riga, maybe there is not much adoption of crypto payments, Bitcoin payments in Riga, but Riga is important hub for the Bitcoiners. Most of you don't know about the conference called Baltic Honey Badger, which gathers all the world's biggest Bitcoin maximalists here in Riga. So maybe you've seen HBO documentary where they expose who real Satoshi Nakamoto is. So there he is, Peter Todd. And that documentary is actually shot here in some scrapyards of Yugla where they pointed camera into the guy and they explained him his results of their research, why they think he is a Satoshi. And this is annual meetup of payment processor called BTC Pay Server that was born here in Riga. And it is like an open source, self-hosted way how you can get Bitcoin as a payment. You don't need to be a trader. You don't need to be a miner to get yourself a Bitcoin. All that you can do, you can sell services and products, and your customers can pay you directly peer-to-peer in Bitcoin. And this BTC Pay server, it has all possible plugins for e-commerce platforms. It's very easy integration. It doesn't have any additional fees, no third party involved. So I believe that is the good way how you can start your Bitcoin journey if you didn't start yet. Then I went around the world. I explored more how crypto adoption is going in the world. And I found it fascinating that the rest of the world has gone further away. In Africa, people understand Bitcoin much, much better than us Europeans. Because for Africa, they are used on mobile money. And for them, the Bitcoin is just an upgrade. It's like mobile money without monopoly of telecoms. And you don't need fancy technology in order to receive Bitcoin. It can be done even with SMS. And this included these billions of unbanked people who never had access actually to any kind of banks, any kind of financial system. So this kind of just brought in like enormous amount of unbanked people into the economy. I met also this filmmaker, Alana. She was going all around the world shooting about the mining industry. So while mainstream media was speaking about Bitcoin as some kind of dirty energy, waiting, she found out that there is all around us, Latin America, Africa, there are people building energy stations, and they provide electricity and internet to villages that never had electricity. And since these energy stations are off-grid, Bitcoin is a way how to monetize independent off-grid and energy creators. This kind of technology is adopted all around the world. In Central Bank of Argentina, we have exhibition of how Bitcoin mining works. Argentina is fighting terrible hyperinflation, and Bitcoin is a way how they are tackling it. President of El Salvador announced that Bitcoin is a legal tender of the country, and that each day they will spend the government's money to buy 1 Bitcoin per day. A few days ago, he announced that their yearly profit in this year is over 300 billions, and he's kind of put this example for others where Bitcoin is not anymore speculative risk asset. It's an asset to protect you from risk. And all around the world, we have countries taking the same path, adopting Bitcoin. Even the US is now considering to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Even in Switzerland, we have referendum, initiative for referendum so Switzerland can have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So all around the world, governments, companies, corporations are putting on Bitcoin to protect themselves. There are these ETFs in this year where big pension funds, insurance companies are investing in companies that hold a large amount of Bitcoin in order to protect themselves from inflation and everything. But Europe is not yet there. Europe, everything is now at this moment is about regulations. So next panel, we will speak about how Latvia is on its way to become the powerhouse of MiCA licensing. But I hope Latvia will continue also to become this true Bitcoiners hub, and that there will be more Bitcoin adoption here in Latvia. I received calls lately from banks asking me about this second, third level of retirement package, and I asked them about Bitcoin ETF. They didn't know anything. I find it very irresponsible that the person who manages my retirement package never educated himself about Bitcoin. So I would like you to just write me on any any LinkedIn, Telegram, Twitter. If you want to do something with Bitcoin, if you have questions, just write me. I will help you to study Bitcoin. I wish you all peace, prosperity, and Bitcoins. Thanks.